Last time I went to London, I stayed in a friend's flat and I was looking for somewhere to put my t-shirts and my underwear, and I opened a drawer and in it I found a tarot deck. And this was quite a surprising discovery because it was a deck I thought that I didn't like, and finding it in a strange context in someone else's flat, I found it very charming. It's also a Spanish edition, which kind of increases the charm of everything, really, probably. So I did ask my friend's permission, and here's a review of this deck, which turns out to be the mini Spanish edition of the Sharman-Caselli tarot in a box, also sometimes known as the Beginner's Tarot. While contemplating this deck, I was forced to confront my own tarot snobbery. In some ways, it's rather good. I've seen this tarot pack online, the Sharman-Burke tarot, and I thought, I really would never buy that. I would never work with that. I find the images sort of simplistic and a bit silly, and, I just dismissed it. And I came upon this, and I thought, oh my God, how charming. How charming. It's a Spanish tarot. Actually, it's the Juliet Sharman-Burke tarot in Spanish, in a box. And I was immediately completely charmed by this because it wasn't in my normal radar, And, I have asked my friend's permission to film this tarot, which belongs to him. But while looking in the drawer for a place to put my t-shirts, I did take the liberty of looking inside this little box. And I found this insanely cute little tarot set. It says, to learn tarot. I think the Juliet Sharman-Burke tarot is often called the Beginner's Tarot as well, isn't it? So everything's quite simplified. It's a straightforward, simplified version of the Rider-Waite-Smith. But this is a really sweet package, and it comes with this rather insane thing. It's a tarot mat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which presumably is a Sharman-Burke spread. With a horseshoe on it, and that comes in pieces in the box, so you have to assemble it first. And I just think the whole thing, in terms of presentation, is super charming, super convincing. I'm super sold on it. Suddenly, I'm not a snob anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a snob about this. Okay, I will flip through this because that's probably why you're watching. But I just want to make some observations. Gorgeous box, gorgeous little book, and that's probably, it probably only came out in Spain once, and it'll never be seen again. So don't get too excited. I think you can still buy a mini Sharman-Burke tarot, but I'm not sure whether you can buy it in a gorgeous box. My first observation is this: in this charming little pack of mini tarot cards, we have two that are a different size. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in the industrial age, don't we? Everything's made in factories and things, and we expect, if we're going to have bloody factories, we expect it all to be bloody properly done, don't we? Look, we have the Queen of Pentacles there. Poor thing, is bigger than the others, so she's going to appear either more or less than everyone else. And we have the bloody Knight of Swords looking a bit hysterical there, and he's going to come up all the time, isn't he, because he's bigger than everyone else. Dear. Yeah, so that's my observation. Okay, so now that I can let go of my snobbery, I can see some things about this deck that I really like. I like some of the costumes. I like the trousers on the fool there. I like the slightly too much detail. That these cards have been designed bigger and then they've been shrunk down. And I find that very nice. A very demure High Priestess there. And this is quite an unusual Empress, isn't it? Very, very much in the fields. These are nice colours. I don't know why I was so against this deck. Because I think it's designed for beginners, it's taken some of the elements out of the cards, hasn't it? It's taken some of it's sort of, in a sense, decluttered them, which I'm not sure necessarily makes it easier to read. I mean, there's no keys, are there? And there is no little monks there. That's great. It's a Marseille style, lovers. I completely approve of that. I think this has been sort of scrubbed clean of esoteric elements, We can hardly see the charioteer there, let alone the moon on his breastplate, which isn't there, let alone the square chariot that he sits in, which is so important. A pleasantly absurd strength. A lovely hermit, a mad wheel of fortune, thumbs up to madness, A suitably grumpy justice. I like it when people hang upside down in tarot decks. If they're wearing a tunic or something, it never actually, it never actually obeys the laws of gravity, does it? It never actually falls upwards and covers their chest or maybe their head. It behaves itself. That's a pretty good death. It's quite apocalyptic, that death card. It's quite Mad Max. Look at that. I mean, it's actually too good, isn't it? I mean, if this is for beginners, this tarot deck, that might scare the children, that one. A nice Temperance. Again, I think that Devil card is actually too good. It's too imaginative. Clearly quite nightmarish. It's a sort of scene from a Hammer horror, or maybe a satanic porn movie. What's he going to do to them? That's not really for beginners, is it? A good tower. The tower's almost always good, isn't it, in tarot decks? I mean, if you're not going to draw a good tower, then don't draw the tarot. I think that's how it works. Star facing the unfamiliar direction. Moon. Tower seem to have moved. Sun, rather a crazy looking child there. Like a bit of crazy stuff. Angel looks like he's in a Christmas pantomime and is suspended on invisible wires and is flying across the stage. Sorry, I'm a bit hysterical. I've been in London for 3 weeks and it does make me a bit mad. And actually another character who looks like she is on invisible wires and is just descending onto the stage at the not the London Coliseum, but the Haymarket Theatre, that one where they do big productions. I should have my license revoked, shouldn't I, the way I talk about tarot cards sometimes. So here are the batons, and we notice there's some colour coding going on. Now, I'm actually against colour coding. I think tarot's more interesting than that. I think what's interesting about the suits is that they don't really entirely fall into four families. They're busting at the seams of their four families. It's like, I think it's an oversimplification when you start colour coding the suits. Anyway, that's a perfectly horrible ace of batons. The hand is far too small. And that town there in the distance is also far too small. I think it's a bad use of space. A lovely 2. And I want to tell you that, I mean, the problem with the Pam images is that the 2 and the 3 of batons are almost exactly the same image, aren't they, really? And here the artist has just gone for it and allowed them to be almost exactly the same, as if to say, Pamela, I'm not going to solve your problems for you. The 4 there, I call that a bit confusing. The man in the 4 seems to have the victory wreath of the 6. Fine, maybe that was meant to be clever, but I think you can be too clever. An absolutely splendid brawl in the 5. Look at those brawling yobbos. It's all happening there. And there, the victory wreath where it should be. That's a nice picture. That is this deck at its best. A nice 7. A mad 8. Heaven knows what's happening in the 8 there. Has he just fired 8 arrows at once? Or are 7 of them coming towards him? A good 9. A lovely 10. Now some splendid clothes. I think this artist is good at clothes. A suitably hysterical Knight of Batons, Fire of Fire there. And a lovely queen who actually has got her cat, but not a black one. It's Ginger Tom. Not renowned for magical qualities, but who's complaining? How wonderful. And a rather crazy king. Okay, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. That Ace of Cups is a bit nicer, isn't it? I mean, in what world is that good design? You know, when God is holding a baton, he has a very small hand, he or she. And when they're holding a cup, they've got a big hand. Sorry. A full-on insane Two of Cups. A rather pretty 3. Nice 4. Lovely 5. The artist seems to have gone with the idea that it's a child and a small person in the garden with the cups. I always think it's just 2 children. Yeah, nice. An excellent 8, very Lord of the Rings. An excellent 9. A rather tiresome 10, but I mean excellent in a way. If you're not too bothered with cloyingly cute pictures of families in a state of absolute happiness. So into the court cards. I like it when artists, get excited about clothes in the court cards. I think that's chic. And I think that's very, very chic. I mean, I think this might be the reason why when I discovered this pack, I thought, my goodness, this is gorgeous. Because of the Knight of Cups with that helmet. I mean, knights are an opportunity for artists to go mad, aren't they? Super, super chic queen. And a super chic king with, look at those fishes on the throne. Absolutely fantastic. It's a mixed bag, isn't it, this tarot? I mean, joking apart, I find this tarot wildly, wildly uneven because I think it oversimplifies, it over-declutters, it takes too much of the symbolism out in an attempt to make tarot easier for us. And sometimes the results are extremely attractive and extremely pretty, and sometimes the results are kind of flat. And I think this one is sort of somewhere in between the two. That's the image that appears on the box, I think, in some editions. 3. I've noticed with the 4 of Swords, it seems to be graphic designers, artists seem to always enjoy changing the perspective for the 4 of Swords. It's always a different perspective, isn't it? The 5, yes. I like it that the artist has really run with this idea of the strange, the strange sea, the strange pond, like in The Exorcist or something, that it's choppy on that side, but it's calm on that side. Very spooky. But that does appear sort of in Pamela, doesn't it? A 7, an 8. Now there you go. I think that's really great. There's something about the way the artist fits the required imagery into the required shape, which sometimes I think is fantastically successful, and sometimes I think is fantastically unsuccessful. It's strange, isn't it? It's a roller coaster, this tarot. The 9, the 10, quite nice. I mean, try to fit 10 swords in between a guy's 2 shoulder blades. That's quite a challenge. Okay, a nice little frock coat on the page. I worry about this Knight of Swords. I mean, I think even Pamela's Knight of Swords is a bit mad and a bit ridiculous, and I think maybe that's intentional. So maybe the artist is running with that. A Queen of Swords facing now the other direction. Nice. A very nice King of Swords. Brilliant. I hope the pink background didn't scare you too much. That's very Pam, isn't it? A good 2. Nice colours there on the 3. A nice miser on the 4. A lovely 5. For me, the detail is a bit small there. I mean, the gubbins of this card is the giving of the money, isn't it? And here, it's just there. So I think our starting out tarot reader might have to squint a bit to see what that card's about. A good 7. I like that 7. And I almost always like the 8. Maybe it's because I like the idea of, you know, getting work, getting a commission. A lovely 9. And then, you know, I'm back in my old aversion to over jolly scenes of family perfection. I don't think that's what the Ten of Swords is about anyway. I think the Ten of Swords in Pamela's deck is more ambivalent. Actually, what happens in Pamela's 10 is that the old man is not addressed. He's not recognised by anyone except his dogs. And the couple have got, I think they've got their backs turned to him. And so it seems to be a reference to Odysseus returning and being recognised only by his dogs. So, yeah, it's quite a good composition, that, isn't it? But don't like it. A nice earthy page. Yeah, quite nice. He's a bit small, isn't he? Our knight there, or maybe the horse is very big. A nice Queen of Pentacles. She has her bunny, ladies and gentlemen. The bunny is in the building. And finally, the king. Rather a splendid king, actually. A completely successful bit of graphic design. Okay, well, let's call a spade a spade. This is a tarot pack that's aimed and marketed at beginners. So would I recommend it for a beginner? Not wholeheartedly, no, I don't think I would. The drawing style is quite charming. It has a sort of 1930s feel to it. And I like it that there's plenty of space in the images. Sometimes there's too much space. I don't really get why it is felt that a beginner would need the images to be so simplified and so decluttered. It's like the tarot characters have become just people in a field doing things. I don't think that's what tarot is. I mean, tarot was designed, it wasn't designed by ancient Egyptians, but it was designed by people in the Renaissance who were into Egyptology. And we are, after all, buying these cards in order to do fortune telling. So in a very fundamental sense, tarot cards are meant to work as hieroglyphics. The images are meant to be iconic. The images in the Marseille deck and the images in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck are iconic. They are like hieroglyphs. And if that alarms you, maybe tarot is not for you. I think the obvious beginner's deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith. But in the end, you can learn with any deck that's reasonably accurate in terms of its symbolism. I learnt with the Aquarian deck, which actually doesn't contain very much symbolism, but it does contain a lot of magic, and it is iconic, and it does have a hieroglyphic feel. So there you go, that was the Sharman-Caselli Tarot. Let me know if you agree with me, and I guess it just shows what you can find when you're looking for somewhere to put your underwear. See you next week. Bye.